Your whole life is a constant cycle between three states that dictate all your behavior. And so what you get out of life depends entirely on your ability to escape the two lower states. If you were to overcome these two lower states, the visionary state naturally emerges. An expansive mind that seems to connect everything on a fundamental level. A state that simply asks, why would it not be possible? And rather than needing a certain gene or growing up in a certain environment, it is a state that lives within us that can be accessed at will. But the problem is that we live in a world that is constantly pulling you back into these lower states because that's when you are most profitable. And so it's like an old version of you keeps pulling you back, as if you have a chain on your leg with a 200-pound dumbbell attached to it. So your life is passing you by with these occasional moments where everything clicks. You try to hold on to that perspective with clenched fists, but these fleeting moments of visionary action aren't enough to make real changes as you settle back into that autopilot. We're going to move through these three levels. This in itself will completely wake you up. So after that, I will give you a surprising solution. And no, not another mindset or perspective to hold on to and then in 4 days you forgot about it. An actual practice that will force the visionary state and see the world around you wondering what changed. The animal. Who would Marcus Aurelius have been if he had listened to his fears? The animal is the narrowest perspective. Your emotions become instructions. They lead you and therefore take away any form of control over your own destiny. What you want in life hasn't happened yet, because fear paralyzes you, and if it doesn't, it ruins your competence. During the First World War, there is a spirit of fear. People revert back to their survival instincts. The vision becomes narrow, short-sighted, and of course, highly emotional. In this context, it has a purpose. But it doesn't need to be a fear-based time for this to ruin your potential, because it's currently doing the same. You fear loss of status, you fear rejection, you fear losing money, you fear judgment of others, as if your life depends on it. And this narrows your vision down to this teeny tiny box of 10 centimeters, right? And you don't know what you don't know. This is all you see. And with this extremely limited vision, you avoid decisions at all. And if you do, they absolutely ruin you, making sure that wherever you want to be will never happen. Although you only spend a small percentage of your life in this state, it is right there in the moments that define everything. It is right there in the moments that matter. And it opposes the visionary state, which is wide open. Napoleon perfectly illustrated this in 1809 at the Battle of Wagram, a continuous battle of 40 hours that ended up being one of the darkest days in Europe's history. While Napoleon sits in his tent within reach of enemy cannon fire, he has to wait 30 minutes until all his army reports have come in. He decides, instead of emotionally responding to the first report that comes in, which every general did at this time, he decided to have a little nap. Sleeping in the midst of war, 30 minutes. He wakes up, he gathers all the information he needed, and he ended up winning the battle based on cold strategy. Napoleon was cold in the eyes of fear, as he subscribed to the idea of fatalism, which in his very own words means, if one of those cannonballs was meant for me, then it must. The visionary understands that emotions are external, mere physical experiences that are not to be identified with. It should never impede your visionary state. And the solution at the end of the video will help you access that very spirit. Level 2, the autopilot. Who would Napoleon have been if he accepted what already existed? The autopilot is a state where you simply do what you have done before, and so you get what you have gotten before. The patterns behind you dictating the actions before you, having you develop at a slow, linear pace, while you look at others who just seem to get it. You don't speak up in that meeting because you usually don't. Your business isn't growing, you're not making money because you keep doing the same things. And again, we have this limited vision, although a little wider now because we're not mere animals. We cannot see what is outside of that teeny tiny box Fast forward to this current internet age. The default setting has become autopilot. Everyone has their months passing like weeks. They come home from a routine to enter in a new routine, and it's all glued together by your freaking phone right there in your pocket. The autopilot is enabled most of your waking hours, and its lack of awareness has you doing what you know. We follow old patterns, limiting beliefs from the past that have no ground anymore, making us passive and complacent. And you don't want life to be limited to what you have been. You want life to be what it can be. And so the painful part is that the majority of your life, if you don't pay attention, will be spent in the autopilot. Let's take Napoleon again. He overcame his autopilot in one of the most extreme ways. This man reformed European education. He separated church from state. He centralized power not only in France but throughout all Europe. He reinvented the army system that we see today, all while he was known as a military genius, as a general, above all else. How is it possible to excel in everything that you do? And that brings us to the visionary state that you can access as well. The visionary. Who would you be if nothing stood in the way? The Renaissance proves to us that this visionary state is something that can be accessed universally. That it's a spirit that can be emulated by the individual. In this transitional period of absolute flourishing in every area of life, a philosophy was founded called humanism, which, as we know right now, is called self-improvement. Although we tend to focus on looks maxing, mewing, and how to get rich quick, this is where self-improvement started. And it focused on the pursuit of the individual. For the first time ever, it said the potential of the individual must be achieved because that will give back more to collective society. Well, we seem to have lost that idea a little bit in current self-improvement, as it feels more like mental masturbation these days. But this emerging philosophy, the absurd amount of generalists that achieved excellence in every field that they pursued, is absolutely mind-blowing, and this was not a coincidence. The visionary state itself, as clearly as it can be defined, is to operate from a perspective larger than yourself. An expansive view that observes everything for what it is, looks at the fundamental laws connecting everything, and then asks how things should be disrupted, innovated, and improved. While the narrow autopilot vision is obsessed with the past and old beliefs, and the animal is obsessed with its own random emotions, the visionary within you is able to craft a path forward, founded on a perspective that is not compromised by our human flaws. This is how we take it a little step further for those interested, how you can force the visionary perspective at will. The counsel. I need you to open your mind for a second, because very simply, the visionary state is a wide open perspective. So if you can't open your mind here, then I don't know what to tell you. You probably have heard of the term mastermind. This actually comes from the book The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill, published in 1925. And virtually every consulting and coaching business that exists today is using the mastermind concept. The concept builds on a fascinating event that occurs when you connect a group of minds together to a shared vision. I mean, in the Synthesizer University that I run myself, where we help ambitious men to 10K a month with their creator business, we do the exact same. We leverage the mastermind principle by doing a cohort with like-minded men. And it quite literally creates a new entity and perspective that everybody can access, or in other words, the mastermind. A new perspective that is able to solve the problems that the individuals were utterly stuck on. And that brings us to a mind-blowing solution that requires an open mind. A way for you to force the visionary state at will. Create a council of people that have inspired you in personal ways. A group of minds of whom you would love to have their spirit, their knowledge and their skills. The greatest minds that you would love to be influenced by, to emulate yourself. Now, imagine for a second that you have at a round table these 5 men sitting across from you. It raises you out of that pit of narrow thinking to a complete different standard, a different perspective entirely. Your own mastermind with a group of true visionaries. Let me explain. If Napoleon is at your table, then your fear to be rejected by a woman will completely change. Your fear about creating content and, oh boy, what will my friends and family think about it, will completely dissipate when you have Marcus Aurelius sitting at your table. You being stuck with your online business completely changes when you have Alex Hormozy or Dan Kennedy at your table. Without a word being said yet, without the practice having started yet. Let's get a little more practical now. In this information age, you have the opportunity to learn, to study these great minds to the greatest detail. I'll give you an example. I've been studying Napoleon for a few months now. After just reading a lot about him, I can say, and it may sound silly, that there is some kind of connection that I feel to his spirit. I've learned about how he thinks, how he speaks with his colleagues, partners. You create a real connection that when you think of that person sitting at your table, you intuitively know what he would tell you. Or even before that even happens, you already feel quite silly for being afraid to post a video, to approach a girl, or to start a business. It puts things in a whole new perspective entirely. Because when you are moved by something, it changes your behavior and thought, and so an actual connection has been formed to another spirit, even if that person is not here anymore. So whether you want to overcome fear, start a business, achieve financial freedom, get into great shape, then your counsel, just the idea of having that counsel, will completely transform that pursuit, and you simply have to experience it. So this is how it works. Step 1, create your council of 5 visionaries, 5 men that have inspired you. It doesn't matter whether they are alive or not, as long as there is a connection with their spirit and material to study about them. Step 2, study the living hell out of these people. Very simply, the more you study the minds of these people, the closer you will get to their spirit, the stronger that connection will become, the more of their magic you can emulate and access. So continue to study them. And the beautiful thing is this, beside the implicit value of what you're reading and what you're learning about these people and what they did, on the side you're creating this connection. So it's an absolute win-win situation. Step 3, meet with your counsel whenever you feel that you've lost the visionary perspective. When you're getting stuck in your work, when you feel socially anxious, when you feel afraid for certain things to happen, or when fear is slowing you down, meet with your counsel. Imagine sitting with them at that round table. What would these men tell you? With the connection that exists between you and them, what would they tell you? What would they do? And you will be absolutely shocked about the results of this. It will keep you in this state where you never lose the big picture, and you move towards that big picture at such a rapid pace, because you're avoiding these little moments and long moments where you get stuck in old ways, in old patterns, perfecting this, procrastinating that. This behavior will not be a part of you anymore when you meet with your own council of visionaries. And as you study them more, you will be shocked about the actual connection you will start to feel. And that might sound silly, but it won't feel silly to you, especially when you see the results of this on your own life. And above that, it will start to feel like you have a powerhouse supporting you. It will feel like your hidden secret, your hidden advantage that has people wondering how you do it. And listen, some will say that this is silly and they will quickly revert back to their old patterns and old ways. That's okay. I'm not making the video for you. Others listening to this, and it might be you, will feel that there is something here. And there's a simple reason for that. You intuitively understand that you will become what you think and feel. And you are then correct for choosing to merge with the greatest minds that have ever existed, rather than your own lower instincts. Thank you for watching until here. If you're an ambitious man who wants to start a creator business that makes you 10K a month by exploring your own passions, then I'm letting you know that we have only 2 spots left to do this. And we start on the 1st of June. So if you're interested to turning that skill, that passion, into a business that allows you to work, live, and earn however you want, then now is the time to sign up. And if you're watching this after the 1st of June and you still want to join, then you can go to the same page and you will see when the next cohort starts. If you're not ready and you're just exploring, then join the community for free. And that's it. Take care of yourself. Bye.